Welcome to the Scene Podcast.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Scene Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Borak, joined by my wonderful editor and producer, KJ. KJ, how are you?
I'm doing so good, Justin. I just booked tickets to see Footloose at the Tribeca Film Festival this year. Ugh, I'm pumped.
That is so good. This is the final episode of the season. I know it's so sad, but we are ending on a very, very awesome note. I had one of my idols, one of the coolest playwrights in the world, on the show for an interview. That's right, we are talking to Silent Sky, The Revolutionist, Natural Shocks, Ada and the Engine, freaking The Book of Will. We're talking to Lauren Gunderson today. Guys, we're talking to Lauren Gunderson. Lauren Gunderson's on the show. In the next 7 minutes after I do a segment and finish this opener, you're going to hear her voice in your ears. Your ears are going to be full of Lauren Gunderson's voice. That's crazy. That's insane. We have Lauren Gunderson on the show. I can't imagine a better way to end this season of the podcast. I'm so excited for you guys to hear this interview. So I'm going to stop talking about and let's get right into the freaking show. KJ, let's get to it.
Shows you should know.
All right, it's time for Shows You Should Know, the segment where I get to do my favorite thing in the world, tell you all about plays and musicals you might not have heard of but need to consume ASAP. This is the final Shows You Should Know of the season. I mean, I guess it's the final episode of the season, but it makes me sad, but I'm excited to share some really cool plays with you. Of course, we had Lauren Gunderson on the show today. Oh my gosh, so it would be, I would be remiss to not bring up a Lauren Gunderson play. And I want to talk about the one that I've most recently seen, which is The Book of Will by Lauren Gunderson. Without William Shakespeare, we wouldn't have literary masterpieces like Romeo and Juliet. But without Henry Condell and John Hemingway's, we would have lost half of Shakespeare's plays forever. After the death of their friend and mentor, the two actors are determined to compile the first folio and preserve the words that shaped their lives. They'll just have to borrow, beg, and band together to get it done. Amidst the noise and color of Elizabethan London, The Book of Will finds an unforgettable true story of love, loss, and laughter, and sheds a new light on a man you may think that you know. This play is funny, this is heartfelt, it is amazing for Shakespeare nerds. Lauren Gunderson does a really cool thing where, at least in this play, she does it with a lot of her plays. She writes really short scenes sometimes, and it makes the play clip so fast. So when I was watching this play, it was a long play, but it felt so quick. It moved like at a brilliant, wonderful pace because of the scenes and the speed, and every word was taken into account by Lauren to make sure that it was all put together. And also, I personally think classical text, heightened text, is sometimes hard to comprehend for people who aren't acting students or people who haven't seen it before. So what a wonderful piece to put into a season, to read, to do anything while you're starting to get into that. If you're someone who is doing a season at your school, right? If you're a high school director and you're like, I want to do 2 plays and 1 musical this season, and you're like, I want to do a Shakespeare play, maybe put Book of Will at the top of your season so people can watch that, get an understanding for Shakespeare, and then go and see a Shakespeare play, right? Or if you're an English teacher and you're like, I want my students to read Romeo and Juliet, they're struggling with it, have them read Book of Will. They'll get an understanding of the playwright, and it's funny and it's quick, it's contemporary, and it makes sense, and you learn so much. Lauren Gunderson does a great job of sneaking in educational things into her plays, and it makes me really happy. As a Shakespeare nerd, I loved this very, very, very much. And the production I saw at WVU, other than just a bunch of my friends being in it, I thoroughly enjoyed. So yeah, Book of Will, Lauren Gunderson. Next play I want to talk about is it's the funniest and cutest play I've read in a long time. It's called Everyone Gets Eaten by Sharks, A Cautionary Tale by Marshall Palet. And this is literally the description of the play, okay? Fact. Most people, if not everyone, will eventually be eaten by sharks, but you can postpone the inevitable and get a great deal on a timeshare by joining Adventure Dan on a tour through shark-invested scenarios to avoid, such as kayaking with meat paddles, night swimming after prom, or genetically engineering sharks for science. Because 3 things in life are certain: taxes, death, and specifically death by sharks. A delightfully madcap comedy that you're sure to devour unless it devours you first. This was adorable. It was so funny. I'm a big fan of sharks, so I liked it a lot. One of my favorite things about this is that because like a bunch of people die from getting eaten by sharks in this play, in the notes of the play, Marshall says like the sharks should look silly and stupid. Like they can be people in their street clothes wearing a little shark fin on their head. Like it can be silly. It's a show that can be done by 6 actors or by 60 actors. It's like 30 to 35 minutes. It's perfect for anyone looking for something fun and funny for their contemporary competition or something like that in high school. It's wonderful. Everyone Gets Eaten by Sharks, A Cautionary Tale is a really, really great play. I'm sure a lot of people have already heard of it, but I just read it for the first time, and I liked it a lot. This next play, a little R-rated, so I'm putting that here now. Skip like 4 minutes if you don't want to listen to that. But it's one of my favorite plays ever written, and I want to talk about it before the season's over. It's called How to Transcend a Happy Marriage by Sarah Roll. At a dinner party in New Jersey, 2 couples discuss polyamory as brought up by the introduction of a new temp, Pip, in Jane's office. When they invite Pip and her 2 male partners, discussion turns into action and the exploration of the unexplored desires turns animalistic, and then Jane's daughter sees it all. How to Transcend a Happy Marriage blurs the lines of monogamy and asks how deeply friends, lovers, and strangers can connect. Sarah Rule does an amazing job of looking into romantic relationships and really diving into intimacy in this like beautiful poetic way. And I think How to Transcend a Happy Marriage is like one of the best examples of that. I mean, Sarah Rule famously like one of the primary people under Paula Vogel, who is writing in this like poetic nature. Like she does that beautifully in this play. And also I really enjoy plays that look deep into relationships. And topics in relationships are a little taboo. So having a whole play kind of look into polyamory and monogamy and the differences and stuff like that is a really beautiful text. I will say you can't do this in high schools, but colleges should read it. Everyone should read Sarah Rule. But if you're looking for like a Sarah Rule play to read that you're like, what's a good one? This has the Justin Borak stamp of approval. How to Transcend a Happy Marriage is one of my favorites. So yeah. That's it. How to Transcend a Happy Marriage by Sarah Rule. Everyone Gets Eaten by Sharks, A Cautionary Tale by Marshall Palet, and The Book of Will by Lauren Gunderson. 3 plays 3 shows you should know. That's the name of this section. Okay, that shows you should know. Boom.
Theater in a minute. That's
right. It's time for Theater in a Minute, where I explain something from theater past, present, or future as quickly as my brain lets me. Today's topic is what I think is the National Theater, but is also one of the best things that I think you can invest in as a theater maker, as a theater artist, as someone in this industry. So KJ, let's get to it. Start the clock in 3, 2, 1. We're going to start off by talking about the National Theatre, okay? The National Theatre, located in London, England, is one of the most renowned cultural institutions in the world. Its history dates back to the mid-19th century, where there were growing calls for a national theatre to be established in Britain. However, it wasn't until the 20th century that significant progress was made. In 1904, the National Theatre movement was formally launched with the aim of establishing a permanent national theatre in London. Various proposals and debates followed over the years, but it wasn't until 1963 that the National Theatre Act was passed by Parliament, establishing the National Theatre Company. The company initially performed at the Old Vic Theatre, while plans were made for a purpose-built home, right? In 1976, the current home of the National Theatre was opened on the south bank of the River Thames, right? Designed by architect Sir Dennis Ladston. The building's distinctive brutalist architecture stirred much debate, but has since become an iconic landmark in London. Under the leadership of notable figures like Sir Laurence Olivier, Peter Hall, and others, the National Theatre has produced countless acclaimed productions ranging from classic plays to contemporary works. It also has been a hub for fostering new talent and innovative work in the theatre industry. Today, the National Theatre continues to be a vibrant center for the performing arts, staging numerous productions each year across its multiple stages. It also runs educational programs and initiatives to engage with wider audiences and support emerging artists, ensuring its legacy as a cornerstone of the British theatre. Now, that's the National Theatre. Obviously, this whole segment could just be like the history of them. They're very, very important. But you're probably asking yourself, Justin, what's that special thing? What's the thing that you wanted to talk about on this show that you were so excited to talk about that you think everyone should have? That's called National Theatre at Home. Now, how many of us, raise your hand if you have a streaming service, Netflix, Hulu, I can't see you, but I'm assuming every single person with this in their ear is raising their hand. And if you're not following the rules of the podcast, okay? I'm going to ask again, do you have a streaming service? Literally raise your hand. I can see. I can see you if you can and you can't. And I'm assuming everyone's raising their hand. Well, something that I really, really love to let people know is there is really good theater streaming services out there. There's Broadway On Demand, there's Broadway HD, but one of my favorites is National Theater at Home. National Theater has created a beautiful, beautiful streaming service. It's $12.99 a month, which is pretty steep, but they have amazing, amazing productions on their stuff. They have all of their Shakespeare's. They have Much Ado About Nothing. They have Julius Caesar. They have Twelfth Night. Their Midsummer is awesome. They also have contemporary stuff. They have Hex, that new musical that came out, right? They have the little big things that just released on there. They have all of the constellations. Literally every production of constellations that they did during that the Donmar warehouse thing, all of those productions, they have it. It's wild. They have Julie, they have Amadeus. They have really, really wonderful productions on here that are all filmed beautifully. As a super big Chekhov nerd, their Seagull makes me cry. I've watched their Seagull a ton of times. And their Romeo and Juliet is like a 90-minute thing they did during COVID. It's really, really good. It's my favorite thing to watch. But the National Theater at Home, I think, is kind of like the Apple TV, the Apple Plus. Is it Apple TV? I think it's Apple TV. The Apple TV of streaming services. The catalog isn't as big as other catalogs, but the content is beautiful. It's glorious. It's very clear that they put the work and the effort into it. So if you are looking for some type of investment, if you are spending this summer, if you're a teacher or someone and you have the summer off in some way and you're like, oh, I want to devote like $30 to watching more, to learning more, because as theater makers, we need to be watching, learning, taking in art, right? National Theater at Home is an amazing product. And awesome. And this is not sponsored. I want to make that abundantly clear. This is not sponsored. This is something that I have believed and said every day for like 3 straight years. Honestly, it should be, but it's not. National Theater at Home. Seriously, if you, I know sometimes money is tight, but if you have the ability, go check it out. Seriously, because it's absolutely wonderful. And yeah, watch the Romeo and Juliet and let me know what you think, because I think it's freaking awesome. And their Seagull's beautiful. Oh my God, their Seagull. The production of the Seagull on National Theater at Home is so good. Okay, National Theater, that's Theater in a Minute. That's my soapbox. These are always way longer than a minute. This was 5 minutes. God, I'm bad at timing, but I hope you learned something. And yeah, let's keep on going.
And now, an interview with Lauren Gunderson.
All right, today I'm joined by one of the most produced playwrights in the world, Lauren Gunderson. From Book of Will to Exit Pursued by a Bear, you've probably seen her name on a playbill near you, and for good reason. Her brilliance in historical fiction and feminist storytelling has taken over the theater industry in the best way possible, and I'm so lucky to be chatting with her today. Lauren, how are you?
I'm so good. Thanks so much for that wonderful intro. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh my gosh, of course. I'm so excited to be chatting with you. I've read, luckily before I was even informed that we were doing an interview, I had to do very little research for this because I've read so much of your work prior, and
Oh,
I'm so pumped. And maybe I'll talk about it a little bit later, but actually I'm at my graduate program right now is doing Book of Will. So I was able to
love
see
it.
my first Lauren Gunderson play like a couple of days ago, which was so
I
cool to
love
be able to
that.
do.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That means so much.
No, of course. Everyone's been like talking about your name throughout the school, so I've been like casually dropping, well, I get to talk to her in a couple days. I've been really excited.
Oh,
Wait,
what a delight.
well, I wanted to I that's one of the big things I wanted to talk about was, I mean, obviously you're one of the most produced playwrights of the last 10 years, charting multiple times since 2015 as like one of the most produced playwrights and regionally all over the country. What do you think makes schools like WVU and regional theaters gravitate to your work so much to be producing it so often?
Hmm. I get asked that every now and then, and I have no very good answer except for I am writing the stuff that I want to see as an audience member, as a
Yeah.
theater lover. And that's really the only barometer I have or have ever had
Yeah.
is writing the thing that I need, that I want, that I'm curious about, that I need to unpack and explore,
Mhm.
and following that. Has always been the right kind of direction to follow. The compass always kind
Yeah.
of points north for that, because I came to this as an audience member and a lover of theater, and you know what I mean. I also feel like I know the plays that have moved me the most,
Yeah.
and as an audience member, sitting there and thinking, I feel this wonderful combination, this clash of hope and pain and challenge and joy. And
Yeah.
I just try to emulate less the plays that made me feel that, but the feelings themselves, and bundle it in my own with my own ridiculous, stupid humor or
No,
curiosities or whatever. So,
it's
you know,
amazing. Yeah, it makes me think a lot of, like, how your work spans so many genres. Like,
mm,
like I said, I just saw Book of Will and then Earthrise, your musical, like, they, like, explore these historical elements, and then you really look into, like, feminist storytelling with The Revolutionist or political with The Taming. Is there, like, a certain genre you enjoy most getting into, or is it more the story that you're trying to follow? Or
mm.
what excites you most about starting a new play?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always about where the comedy lives
Mhm.
because whether it's a drama or not, finding the comic voice a- and less for the jokes and the punchline, but more for the craft, the pacing, the sense of energy and intelligence that you have to do good comedy. And
Yeah.
I think what allows an audience to lean in is this laughter, is a sense of, okay, I'm safe in this place. We're having fun. And whether that turns on a dime into something really hard or challenging,
Mhm.
scary, uh, that is the exact crux where we can see
Yeah,
theater do what it does best, which is you're going along and then suddenly you're in a space and thinking about a thing that you weren't seeing coming. And I think comedy does that better than anything. So whether it's a historical piece or an adaptation or something brand new, I mean, I think of my play Natural Shocks and Exit Pursued by a Bear, both about
yeah,
incredibly harsh, scary things, one domestic abuse, one gun violence and domestic abuse. And how on earth those become comedies was the question for me, because I am not interested in trauma on stage just to say, look, there's something awful in
absolutely.
the world on stage. I'm like, no, we know it's awful. We don't need it on stage. I need something more sophisticated, more surprising, more interesting to let me into the corners of whatever that subject is. So I think comedy does that really well.
Absolutely.
So the answer to the question is, where's the funny
Yeah,
in every subject? And often it is also the most human things that become the funniest. It's not, again, the punchline, the quick wit, the exit, devastating
yeah,
exit line. It's those moments of humanity of going, oh my gosh, that's me. Oh gosh, that's my mom. Oh, that's my best friend and I. And
yeah,
that again keeps it grounded in this very human place, which I think makes for great roles for actors who can really live in a role as opposed to just know how to hit their mark and say the
yeah.
punchline. So yeah, that's my
No,
sense is always, where's the delight, where's the joy, where's the laugh, both on stage and off.
and it's so cool to see your work on stage because again, like I said, I've read almost all of your work, and I love it to death, but this was the first time I got to see a Lauren Gunderson play on stage, and
Mm,
what you did with the Book of Will, I love so much because as a theater program here at West Virginia University, for example, we do multiple semesters of Shakespeare work, and I
mm,
could see all of these young actors in this play, or these, like, fellow grad students of mine getting to use a contemporary voice while exploring the history of this, like, guy from the 1600s that we, like, have learned so much about.
yeah,
And it's so cool because on top of that are is and I think at a lot of colleges and schools, a lot of the audience base are fellow students and not always
yeah.
theater majors or theater goers all the time. So it was really fun to watch a lot of audience members leave this show and have a really great understanding of who Shakespeare was and what he did from this, like, contemporary, funny, awesome play that was able to, like, tell that story. It's so cool that you're able to do that with history by finding that
Thank
common
you.
books.
Thank you. I mean, the guiding principle for historical pieces for me, and also with adaptations of classic literature or reimaginings or iterations of the Jane Austen plays or whatever, is is finding that common humanity. I mean, I remember being in the rehearsals for the premiere of Book of Will and having this conversation that illuminated so much, which is, he's like, well, they lost the main characters, had a lot of kids, and only a couple survived into adulthood. And,
Yeah.
but that happened a lot. So it probably wasn't as sad as it would be now. And the director was like, no, no, no. No, no, no. Sorry. Losing a kid is losing a kid, whether
Yeah.
it's now, whether it's 400 years ago, whether it's 1,000 years ago. And if we can't see that common humanity across time, then we're doing this play wrong.
Yeah.
So the idea that the actors were totally right to say it was different back then, and yet it's not. And I
Mhm.
think that's the approach for all of these plays is, how are we like the women and the revolutionists at the cusp of the French Revolution, and how are
Yeah,
we like um, uh, Marie Curie 100 years ago, and of course Wilbur
absolutely.
Will, those characters. That common humanity is what theater does, right? That's
Yeah.
what makes it livable and meaningful on stage.
Yeah, no, of course. I wanted to talk about something that I am so interested in when playwrights do. So I'm a big fan of lore. I love like really like taking backgrounds or taking like pieces and really exploring them. I actually just got to talk to the Ride the Cyclone team and
Oh,
learn that
cool.
yeah, and learn that Jacob Richmond, who wrote the book, wrote like a prior play beforehand, and like, Ride the Cyclone is technically like the second play of this like trilogy that he's creating.
Oh, cool.
And I had no idea that your Christmas show, Miss Benet Christmas at Pembury, is
Hmm.
has a companion piece called The
Yeah.
Wickhams. It reminded me a lot of like Aaron Posner's No Sisters or like Ronan Noon's Long Days like adaptation that he did, The Second Girl. Um, what was it like? Oh, and then also I didn't even notice. I was told this by a producer. There's a third one that's like
Yes.
about to. It's like it just got published and is about to be up for like being. What is it like to write a
Yes.
companion piece? What made you want to explore this world like even more?
Yeah. Well, so the Misspin Play started with this question that my co-writer Margot Melcon and
Mhm.
I always got, because she was a literary director at the theater that I worked at a lot here in the Bay Area
Yeah.
for a long time. And you always get the question of what to do during the holidays. What's something that's Christmassy but not too Christmassy,
Yeah,
something that everyone can go to when they're all together. And you get that question from so many regional theaters. And we sort of said,
absolutely.
well, why don't we write a thing that does exactly that, instead of accidentally does it, intentionally does it. And we kind of did it as a as like a joke, or just like a fun, like, oh, what would we do? Okay, we want it to be like, what are some nostalgia, beloved characters? I mean,
Yeah,
they've done Dickens. Let's do Jane Austen. So what's our favorite? Pride and Prejudice. Okay, we'll use Pride and Prejudice. Okay,
yeah,
and then but they mentioned Christmas in there, so we'll do it at Christmas. Okay, and well, what's the sister that we don't hear much of? Let's do the middle and Mary. Okay, and so we just kind of like whipped it up, and then had the absolute most wonderful fun, and were able to find something that puts so many women on stage, because Jane Austen does. And they are funny, and they are loving, and they are different. They are, very distinct from each other, but all cohesive. They have
mhm,
such high stakes and drama, and it's just love, love, love. And there's a way to do it in the way that Jane Austen did, which is with savvy, with some cut to it. It's
yeah.
not just sweetness and frosting. And so we really just had the absolute greatest time doing Miss Bennett. And then we're like, well, there's a couple of other sisters, so let's keep going. So the Wickhams is Lydia's story, which I love that love story. That one's going up at that. We are very lucky to see so many productions every holiday season. It's one of my favorite things, is watching all the pictures of all the
Yeah,
productions pop up on my feed. The Wickhams is, taking a traditional structure of an Austen love story, but making it frankly about divorce, not about marriage, because we need to free our Lydia from Mr. Wickham.
mhm,
And so it's a wonderful way to do that. And then Georgiana and Kitty is the third in the trilogy, which if you're going to do two, why not do three? So
yeah,
we're done with them now. We're going to leave Pride and Prejudice alone. We're thank you so much, Jane Austen, and good night. But it's wonderful to go back to those same characters, and now we're seeing theaters who've done all three and are kind of starting over again. And
that's
it's
so
really
cool.
it's a wonderful, another option for that holiday time. I'll take a Dickens, but this centers women in a bit more, and is more of a love story than
Yeah.
a morality tale. And just we need options.
We just saw I wasn't able to go, but, I'm based in West Virginia, and City Theater just did it for their Christmas show, and when I saw
Yep.
it pop up, I was like, "What a great idea from a playwright is, like, writing a piece that is, like, tailored for, like, the holiday season, so people don't have to continue doing the same couple shows," even those shows are done wonderfully, giving options, but now creating this, like, big canon where people can do these, like, big overarching stories. That's so fun because like, I know having been here for 3 years, you find the regional theaters near you that you love. So,
Yeah.
like, when those theaters find, like, things that they can do that connect to past seasons is just so fun. That is
Yeah.
a blast. Oh, that's awesome.
It's wonderful. We love it. Every time we'd get into a premiere, it would be just the joy of going, "Oh, I'm so excited. I get to hang out in this world for a month and a half."
That's so
What a
awesome.
dream.
Yeah, that's so sweet. Okay, there's another project that I wanted to
Yes.
ask you about because it seemed sick and I couldn't find a lot on it. So I did like this long hours long deep dive when I should have been writing my thesis and I was not. And instead, I was looking into your show that you wrote with Kiergan and Loudermilk. This so
Mhm.
okay. So many questions. So you wrote this musical called Justice about the first 3 women on the Supreme Court. It's written
Yeah,
by 2 of my favorite composers in the world. I love
same.
them so much, and I know you've worked with them, I think, multiple times.
Yes,
Um,
yes, thankfully.
I haven't been able to find too much, but the concept is amazing. The music, I'm, like, obsessing over on YouTube. It's crazy. I wanted to know, like, what the process was immortalizing these three's legacy in government, like, in this
Mhm.
show, and also what made you make the decision to do a musical? Was it something you 3 because I know you guys have worked together before. Did you guys come up with the idea together, or were you, like, working on it and go, like, "I think this is a musical," and reached out to them? How did that go?
Yeah, I mean, I love Bree and Kate so much.
Mhm.
They are, I think, some of the best, if not the best, musical theater writers, contemporary working right now.
Yeah.
And so I've been lucky to work with them on various different. They did Earthrise with me. We've
Yeah,
done
yeah.
Justice. Bree and I did musicals before that, and are developing one now. Kate and I worked on Time Traveler's Wife together.
I
So
was gonna
there's
ask you about that
so
at the end.
much.
It looks so cool. That's in London right now, right?
Yes, 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 yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, Justice was a really interesting project because we wanted to do this, a bit of a hat trick of something
Mhm.
small, brainy, something you don't see a lot of musicals about, the
Yeah.
Supreme Court, but also just 3 women, and frankly, 3 women who are older than our ingenues, than our usual women that we see on stage. So that combination led us to this subject. It was a commission from Arizona Theater Company when Sean
Mhm.
Daniels was leading it, because Sandra Day O'Connor is from Arizona. And
Yeah.
so she's kind of the icon of Arizona. And that was the State Theater of Arizona. So anyway, I was like, great. Well, I will write about O'Connor if we can also write about Ginsburg, because that to me starts to be a portrait of America, and how
Absolutely.
we have these women with different backgrounds coming together as the first women on the Supreme Court, and then how that changes when Sonia Sotomayor comes on, and of course, leading up to the kind of historic moment with Justice Jackson's confirmation, which of course happened while we were premiering the musical,
That's
which was
crazy.
absolutely wild and wonderful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a beautiful, tight jewel of a musical that tries to talk about some of the more contentious, but also the kind of beautiful and exciting things about the American justice system. But like, what a
Yeah.
time to be writing about the Supreme
I
Court!
know.
No, very low stakes right now. Nothing important going on at the
Nothing
court, of
important.
course. But it is an example of kind of one of the joys of being a playwright and a writer of musicals is getting to do those deep dives in subjects that I would have had no curiosity about until writing something about it, and then you become a minor, annoying, obnoxious expert in this thing, and it opened my eyes. It was such a good experience, just as a citizen of this complex country, to
Yeah.
dive into that world, and try to tell the story, and to try to understand what is hopeful about it. Again, this hope, this question of what can we take away that makes us want to keep fighting, keep learning, and keep going. So,
Absolutely. I want to take something you said to lead into my final question of this interview. I think you are the best playwright alive right now at deep diving into a subject and like
oh,
really, really getting into some type of history or some type of topic and putting it on the stage in a really entertaining way where
oh,
it's like
thank you.
the true like balance of entertainment and educational. I think it's so
Hmm.
impressive. So usually at the end of interviews, I like to pry my little hands in and try to figure out something that no one else knows. So I just want to know, and it doesn't have to be a real project either. Is there any historical event or person that you're currently like thinking about centering a show around, or someone that you've just always been like, this is something that I really desperately want to do? Because it just, I love looking at all of, I feel like I'm taking a history class when I'm looking through your website, and it's so cool because I don't hate it and it's like so enjoyable. So I'm wondering if
Yeah.
there's anything that you've been like really, really gearing up for, something you really want to hit.
I mean, the truth is, well, I can't walk into a bookstore without wanting to adapt every nonfiction book I see. I have to stop reading nonfiction at times, because I'll go one chapter in and go, oh God, it's a play. It's starting. Oh no, stop it, stop it.
I can
So
only imagine Lauren Gunderson walking into a Barnes& and Noble is like great.
it's
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 wild.
it's my happy place, but
I was
also
gonna
like,
say, yeah.
beware, this is the next years of your life. As far as scientists go, I am incredibly obsessed with Rachel Carson.
Mhm.
Her estate is very tough about her story being told.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly, working my way into their good graces.
Yeah.
But I think her story is incredibly important in all of the ways. Um, as a woman scientist, as a very private woman. Her
Mhm.
relationship with her nephew is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Her relationship and understanding of the natural world, especially at this time, and the fact that she was, fighting a very aggressive cancer while testifying into Congress to stop DDT and poisonous
Yeah.
chemicals in the world, and won and changed America.
It's amazing.
I find her incredibly moving, and her writing is so lusciously, beautifully poetic,
Yeah.
especially for books about science. So that's my secret love. Is it an opera? Is it a musical? Is it a play? I don't know. But I
It's
can also
so
just appreciate it and not have to make a play out of it, but it feels like it should be.
No, of course, absolutely. I feel like one of the greatest gifts someone could get you for a holiday or something like that is just a random nonfiction book that they're like, I really think you're gonna like this. Because who knows? It could become a
You
play. I
could.
have no idea. But
You could.
Lauren, seriously, it was so much fun chatting with you. It was
Oh, likewise.
it was such a blast. I mean, if you haven't heard of Lauren Gunderson, bananas, but go check out all of her stuff, all of her plays. If you're in the West Virginia area, come see Book of Will. But it's seriously, it's been so amazing chatting, putting a face to the brilliant, brilliant playwright that I've been able to look up to for so long.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the questions, for your time and enthusiasm, and for all you do in the theater and for writers and other theater makers. Such a delight to talk.
And that's our show. Thank you so much for listening to this season of the Scene podcast, guys. Thank you so much to Leah, to KJ, to Zach, the team over at the Scene. I could not do this without you guys. Thank you so much, Lauren Gunderson, for being our interview on this episode. Crazy, absolutely bananas, insane. I can't believe that I got to talk to her. It was one of the biggest pleasures of my life. I was so happy to talk to such a inspiring and, I mean, gosh, Mount Rushmore level playwright in our industry. It's so cool. Thank you so much, Lauren Gunderson, for being on the show. Thank you guys so much for the team over at the Scene. If you want to give me a follow me at Justin Borak. If you want updates for the next season, when it's going to be coming out, I can't say anything, but all I can say is follow the Scene _news on Instagram. Check out our website, thescenenews.com, I believe. And follow me on Instagram at Justin Borak. We'll be posting updates for the upcoming season. We have some very, very cool things in the works, I believe. And I'm very excited. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much. What an amazing season. I want to end this episode. I want to talk for just a couple seconds and say thank you so much for listening to the show. It's meant so much to us, to me, to KJ, to Leah, to all of us over here who's been putting a lot of effort into putting together these interviews, editing the show. Got a huge shout out to KJ. We couldn't do this without Leah for setting up all of our interviews, for Zach for creating the Scene, for putting all this together. It means the world to me that they brought me into this, and truly, I'm the biggest theater nerd, if you can't tell from the last 20 episodes of this podcast, from Play to Z, from my TikTok. I love theater more than anything on the planet. It's my favorite art form. It's my favorite medium. And I love playwriting. It's my dream. It's my passion. And I could not imagine a cooler job than I've had over the last 6 months of interviewing these awesome, awesome playwrights. And I can't say anything, but I'm really, really excited, and I'm very, very hopeful of the future to do it even more and to bring you guys very cool, very fun, very dope content with amazing names like the ones we've had on this season. But a huge, huge, huge thanks to every single playwright we had on the show. Seriously, Jacqueline Bacchus, Candace Jones, Kate Hamill, Michael Cody, Lauren Gunderson. Who else did we have? We had so many people. I want to give everybody a really nice shout out. Alvaro Arias. Oh my gosh, Alvaro Arias. You're absolutely the best person in the world. Ride the Cyclone team, Jenna Duvall, Sandy Rustin, Douglas Lyons. You guys have been so cool, and it's been such an absolute pleasure working with everybody on this show and chatting with everybody. And I really hope you guys learned something and enjoyed it, and I really cannot wait for another day in the future where you get to hear my silly voice. Make sure you hit subscribe, you rate, you review, you do all that stuff, because who knows, maybe some secret episodes might be coming out this summer. I can't say anything, but maybe you might want to be subscribed. You're going to want to check out the website, and you're going to want to follow the Instagram. You're going to want to do all that stuff, okay? And follow me at Justin Borak on Instagram, at Mediocre Jokes on TikTok. I'll be updating everybody on where this podcast is going, and I am so incredibly lucky to have been a part of this season. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you, Lauren Gunderson. Thank you to the entire team over the scene. KJ, Leah, I love you guys. I have to end this season the way I end every episode, by saying the 2 words every scared theater student says while presenting a scene. And they don't know, there's like that weird moment where like you cut it in a weird way and you don't really know if it's actually the end of the scene or it's not the end of the scene, but your faculty definitely doesn't know. And you kind of just have like awkward, prolongated eye contact for a while until you look at the most intimidating faculty member and you say, and scene. See you guys next season. Goodbye.